In this episode of Late Night Love, we break down the contradictions of modern work and life, from reversed PTO policies and the mystery of digital meeting etiquette to the shocking perplexity behind Harvard's rejection of a top scholar. Tune in for a night of raw insights and unexpected twists as we explore the curious case of how everyday issues mirror our societal challenges and hidden geniuses. What has happened today?
It's been a busy day.
Apparently so. Good Lord. Yeah, that's crazy. The fact that I couldn't get myself through that thing. It's the strangest thing ever. Well, okay, maybe not ever.
Every once in a while, you have them, darling.
I have them more than every once in a while. So I don't have anything outlandish to start out with this week. Normally I have some rant or concern or something, but I didn't find anything this week. So there's that. This is true. It is Memorial Day as of this recording. Yeah, I did my part. I watched the Indy 500 yesterday.
Okay.
That's my part of Memorial Day. They had the helicopters fly over the racetrack circle along with the race cars underneath. That was kind of cool. Yeah, so that was neat, I suppose. All right. So what do we have to start with, my lovey?
Well, but my tablet fell asleep. Let me open up here. Okay. Has anyone ever had personal time off reversed?
Well, I mean, if you've put in like a request for vacation or something, they get approved, and then they come back later and
then they say, no, you have to work.
Oh, someone screwed up and you can't have that weekend, or there's some big project came along and we really need you to not take that. Yeah, it's happened. I've also taken 2 weeks off after about, what was it, a week and a half of work. But I told them when they hired me, look, these dates, I'm on vacation. These dates, everything's already done and paid for. So I'm taking it, and you can deal with that up front. It happens on occasion. It dang well better be an emergency. One time, an emergency, things happen, someone gets sick and people need to fill in, or a big project comes due, or maybe you work for some major company that builds airplanes and you have some catastrophic event and all hands need to be on
this
deck.
Just sounds like mismanagement to me. What I'm hearing.
If it's recurring, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if it's a one-time off thing, something happened and we need to get some stuff to our biggest customer and all hands need to be on deck for this week. Do you mind postponing your vacation? I know it sucks. There'll be a bonus at the end for you, for everybody who chips in. That kind of thing. It does happen on occasion, especially when you work in the world of manufacturing goods that, other businesses need to keep going. It can happen. And if you're a small crew, a small team, coverage is difficult, especially if you're uniquely skilled. If you're a major corporation, then it shouldn't matter, right? There should be enough coverage. You've got thousands of, but if you're a mom and pop shop with 10 people.
Oh, well, yeah, I could see that.
And something happens, there's no coverage. There's no time to train anybody. And we've got this emergency thing that can make or break us for not just this year, but for next year. Yeah. They're going to ask you to sacrifice that time off, and they'll give it back to you on the other side. Of course they will, but it depends. If you're working for PepsiCo, what emergency could possibly come up that you need to deal with that someone else can't? You know what I'm saying? But if you're working for some company that makes, some unique part for a plane manufacturer, and all of a sudden these parts need to get replaced for some reason because the company before you majorly screwed up, all hands need to be on deck. Type of thing. It happens. It happens. So yes, it does happen, but it shouldn't happen often.
No.
Okay, what's next?
What are people doing for work now in the middle class?
Well, it depends where. I mean, this is highly dependent on location. If you're in a financial area, New York or Atlanta, Charlotte, one of these financial places, then you're working in finance. If you're working in San Jose, then you're working in tech or some tech service industry. If you live in a capital of some state, then you likely work for the bureaucracy. There's lots of, and middle class depends where. California's middle class. You now need to earn over $100,000 in California to be middle class. You take that same $100,000 to Kentucky, and you're an upper middle class easily. So it depends. There's people in California, in parts of California, if you make $100,000, you're barely getting by simply because rent's so much. Because half of that's still going to rent because your rent's $4,000 for a crappy 2-bedroom apartment because you happen to live in San Francisco or LA. That's actually starting to change a little bit now. Those prices are unsustainable. So as those leases come up, just hold on, just be willing to move, and you'll be able to save some money down in San Francisco, the Bay Area, and whatnot. Here coming soon.
That's nice.
Well,
Nice dividend for them.
Well, yeah, except how many thousands had to lose a job to create those conditions? I mean, we can blame them for wanting the policies that created the conditions that inflated the prices, the housing prices. Sure, this is true, but there's been thousands upon thousands upon thousands of layoffs down in the Bay Area, and those are, individually, those are tragedies. On the grand scheme of things, it's economic adjustments. It is what it is. We'll all survive. But individually, they're tragedies. And, we don't want to forget that in looking at just kind of the numbers and the realities of economics. Realities of economics aren't going to change. The realities were going to be the realities, but we can still feel for them as human beings. So what do? You do whatever you can. If you really want middle class, become a plumber, an electrician, that kind of thing. They're sorely needed, so they are well paid. Find out what other people aren't doing and do that if you want the quick way into the middle class. Yeah. Be the one willing to climb into the sewer, and you'll be the one going to the bank. Just saying.
That's just a hard fact of life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Is anyone else concerned about the level of functional illiteracy in the United States?
Concerned? Not really. I mean, there's a big concern about our education system, but am I overly concerned about functional literacy? No. This is one of those things that it seems to be a bigger problem than it really is. And I think is when my battery died. So we're going off of your readings.
Okay.
No, because what we think is functional literacy is no longer functional literacy. The world evolves so quickly. Back when I was in high school, they still taught us typing. I suppose they still they give keyboard classes to people who need to learn to use computers and have to start.
Yeah, they do in college.
From the basics.
Community college.
But the reality is most of us know how to type. And in the modern world, knowing how to use a graphical interface is probably more important than typing. Knowing how to talk to a computer is probably more important than typing in the next 40 years. Probably is. So we don't know what is actually needed in the future. Now, I am concerned about the, I don't want to put this, the incompetence of our educational system on a grand scheme of things. But on an individual level, we all have control over the education of our children. Even if you can't control the school they're in, you can still control their education. And I have a belief that, you know, until that changes, we're in good hands. So, all right.
Coworker doesn't leave food for other people. How to deal with it?
Oh, my computer crashed.
She goes through and just loads her plate up. People go through and behind her, and there's like nothing left.
Yeah.
She'll take all of the shrimp, you know, that kind of thing.
Well, what are you going to do? If anything, that's, I suppose, technically her supervisor's
Now,
thing to deal with, not yours.
we had an issue with this at the one function that we had. It was at PBS. It was an event. We manned the phones, and we had one of those 3 foot long or sandwiches, the 6 foot, and they made a comment. This one woman kept going back and back and back. Well, I happen to know that she had food issues because she had been recently homeless. And that's how it manifested itself with her. You know, she was anxious about having enough to eat.
And-
you know, so everybody, so what, because the powers that be, I mean, the executives came to me and actually said something because I was running the event and, I did the coordinating and I explained it to them and they were like, oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's it. Someone has to have that uncomfortable conversation, but
I happened to, I had already known.
yeah.
Yeah.
But someone has to sit down with her and say, look, we appreciate the difficulties you're dealing with, but you know, that kind of behavior is not acceptable. You want to take the food that's left over at the end of the night, knock yourself out, right? We ain't gonna care. But you know, you're gonna have to try to control yourself when you're at an event, right? Because you can't do that to your coworkers. It makes everybody uncomfortable, right? So at that point, somebody has to have a conversation with her. Okay. Talk about uncomfortable conversations. We can Zoom meetings. Yeah. All right. So what's next?
Why do so many people refuse to use Teams while in the office?
Okay, because they just want you to come and just talk to them for the love of the Lord. Just come and have the conversation. And they'd much prefer the personal conversation.
You know how much time that takes? And people want to socialize and hem and haw. No, send a quick email, send it back. I don't care if it takes you 2 hours. Just, you know, whatever.
No, but Teams,
leave me alone.
Teams
I'm
is like
working.
Messenger. It's a video chat thing. It's a chat. It's a chat. It's like texting. At one level, it's texting, or the other one, it's a video chat thing. So
okay.
Just come to the office and tell me what the hell you want. That's just for the love of Lord. Don't.
I didn't like that.
Make me go through all the hassle of what? Can you hear me? Is it working now? I've got to check my camera. Forget it. Just
I don't. Oh no.
Just forget it.
Oh no.
Just forget it. So that's why, because if you're in the office, just come to the flipping office, you know, or pick up the phone and just say hello. You know, I much prefer just go to, because then you don't there's less chance of miscommunication. eye to eye, person to person contact.
Well, if it's a complicated issue, then yeah.
If it's any issue can be a complicated issue. Okay, what's next?
Is it okay to kill the camera on a Zoom meeting?
Well, you can if you need to pick your nose or blow your nose or something like that. Sure, it's perfectly reasonable to every now and again have to sneeze or cough or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those are expected. Now, sit there, turn it off so you can go and watch SpongeBob SquarePants while everybody else is in the meeting. That's a different story.
You've done this?
No, I don't go to Zoom meetings. I'll be over at your office. I avoid those things if I can. Everybody's trying to trip over everybody talking, or you end up tripping over everybody because you're trying not to trip over everybody because everybody waits and then somebody finally goes and everybody goes all at once. And it's so they're pointless. Just come to the office and say hello.
I get so bored on
No kidding.
I was on one recently, and I killed the camera and the mic, and I cleaned my bedroom while I talked.
Well, I mean, depends on the Zoom meeting. That happens at times, right? But if you're at a work meeting, you're kind of supposed to be there. Yeah. Okay.
I complained about my manager to HR. What happens next?
You're supposed to complain about your manager to your manager. I mean, assuming they're not doing something illegal, because we've spoken about this before. HR is not there for you. It's there to protect the company. If a manager or somebody is doing something, illegal against company policy or whatever, then in that case, they will work for you, but they're really only working for you in respect that, they're working to protect the company. By protecting you, they're protecting the company. They don't really care about you. It's not their job. Who signs their checks? That's who they work for. This is not complicated. So what happens next? Depends on the company and exactly what it is. If it's just a normal complaint, your complaint should have gone up the regular chain of command, not to HR. Now, if it's something more serious, okay, then it's HR, but then you should have documentation and all that kind of stuff. Make sure your ducks are in a row. If you're just whining because Bob's a butthead, well, it's not going to go very far, and you're going to become the one who's going to be, shall we say, moved along, because you're now the trouble employee that no one wants to have to deal with, because you're just whining about your boss being a butthead. Well, maybe he is, but you have normal chains of command for that, and you circumvented that, which means you're the whiner now. Congratulations. Unless, of course, we're talking about something genuinely legitimate, and then that will take its course.
Out of your hands now.
Yep. All right.
Why did Harvard reject my school's valedictorian? He had a 4.99 GPA, no grade less than a 99, 1,600 SATs, 36.0 ACT, 800s on 6 SAT, 2s, 5s on 25 AP exams, national ratings in piano, 3,000 plus volunteer hours, and a research internship at a lab.
Well, there's lots of reasons. I mean, given the history of Harvard recently, it could be for, we'll call it cultural reasons. But it could also be, you have to remember, every Tom, Dick, and Harry who has resumes similar to that are applying at Harvard. Every single one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the sad thing is you end up with, at places like Harvard, you end up with a bunch of Nepo babies, which personally I don't have a problem with. But, those people are in theory, taking up spots for people like this. But my thing is, take your talents to a different school. The only thing you get at Harvard that you don't get at other places is the networking. It's not the education. The education at Harvard isn't any better than anywhere else. It's the networking at Harvard is. That's the difference. But take it to the best school you can find with the best program that you're looking for and go there. Don't worry about whether it's Harvard or Mississippi Valley State or someplace. Doesn't matter. Go where you're going to get the best education for you or for him in that particular case. It may be Harvard. It may be some school that nobody's ever heard of. But don't worry about the prestige of the colleges because that kind of thing is going by the wayside these days. For the better or for worse. But we've talked about the quality of our education earlier, and you can't exempt places like Harvard from that list. All right?
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us on this late night journey through life's perplexing corridors. We've teased out the irony in reverse PTO policies, pondered the unspoken battles over shared food, and even stepped into the contentious world of digital meeting etiquette. As we sign off with the baffling case of an overlooked genius, remember, sometimes the most dramatic stories are the ones unfolding right before us. Until next time on Late Night Love, keep questioning, keep loving, and never stop uncovering the unscripted chapters of your life. Have a good night. Please remember to love everyone.